when you look at really going deep with a customer, like how did you define like that beachhead, that starting point for the product, right? Like how did you define what that was? And I mean, was it the most important thing they needed? Was it the easiest thing that you could build? Like what was the process?
You know, it's so interesting because we launched the business coming out of COVID in 2021, and Wash and Fold, this kind of full service laundry element, was the fastest growing side of the industry. COVID wasn't a change agent; these habits were already going for consumers, but it was an accelerant of that behavior of I don't want to be in a small high touch environment with a lot of metal and closed environment during COVID. I'll drop it off and the laundromat will do it for me, which is just an amazing service that so many people haven't experienced and don't even know about. But because that was the fastest growing side of the business, we launched with a point of sale. Now, point of sale is a very typical product line to launch in a new vertical because it's a high sell-through rate, low implementation cost, lower switching cost, and a core need that touches a lot of different sides of the business, right? You're taking in the order, the customer, the employee. By taking on the order, you're doing the processing of that order and tracking. And then you have, a kind of a product that's at the heartbeat of a location. It's inside a store, so you can expand within that location easier. So that was the first product we launched with based on what customers were telling us would be really valuable. I'd say in hindsight, that counter business and what's unique, at least about garment care, is the revenue breakdown by product is much different than in a restaurant. In a restaurant, take online ordering out of it. Every dollar that goes through that restaurant's going over the counter. There's no other way to pay. In a liquor store, in a grocery store, in a coffee shop, et cetera, again, take out online ordering and maybe commercial. In a laundromat, you have 2 to 3 different retail experiences inside of the same store. You have over the counter, you have vending machines, soap dispensers, et cetera. And then you have the self-serve side of the business where I'm doing the laundry myself. And at some stores, that could represent 90% of the revenue. And so our wedge product, it was super important for us to get deep, but we were focusing on a particular ICP to understand the industry, build huge value in the operating side of the business. So a lot of companies come into an industry, they're focused on how are they touching every element of payment. That was our long-term goal. And that's what's developed a huge hardware business for us to kind of power these laundry equipment payment systems. But starting with the point of sale was much more about how do we create the operating system. And the over-the-counter product was the fastest way for us to start to build a nucleus before we invest more in these other kind of payment-driven products. So you could say, would it have been more valuable for us to start hardware, from a need perspective for our customers? Maybe. But we felt like that strategy of focusing on the operating system would be better for us in the long run.